When I am thinking about fashion, approaching personal style, I'm building a narrative always. There's a story.
Sheronna Osbourne is a creative force, an award-winning director, actress, and entrepreneur who knows that storytelling isn't just what happens on screen. It's how we communicate before we ever speak.
Where you haven't actually produced a physical product that people can see.
She calls it fashion as a cheat code. How what we wear shapes not just how others see us, but how we see ourselves.
Fashion can assist you what their narrative is or what they want it to be. What is my story today?
And every day we're telling a story. The only question is, are you writing it with intention? Let's find out.
Unlock your potential. That's what we want to do this year. We want to unlock our potential, and we want to connect with some people who have some amazing key insight, who have gone through the journey to figure out how to transcend some of the barriers that can traditionally stop us from moving through. Today, I am so excited to sit down and share a conversation with Sheronna Osbourne, actor, director, producer. Did I say award-winning? I don't think I added an award-winning. Award-winning actor, director, producer. So welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love
Thank
this.
you. Yeah, this is actually the very first recording of this show, and there was nobody that I wanted more than you. And I'll give everybody a little bit of a backstory. Sheronna and I, when we first met, you were on the red carpet for CaribbeanTales Film Festival for Remote Paradise.
Yes.
And your outfit was absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
You had these beautiful bejeweled shades. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can even start there and we'll show a little bit about that outfit.
Yeah.
But tell me what went into the styling of that fit.
Well, I was representing my movie, Remote Paradise, as a director. I just wanted to be sleek, elegant, and edgy. I think I'm always in that sort of crossroad. Mm-hmm. And, now that I think about it, the glasses that I had on, they gave me like director vibes. We think about like the Spike Lees and, he always has like frames on. And one of my favorite, artists in general is also like Tiana Taylor, so just people that I'm like, oh yeah, glasses is a thing. It's also a thing for me. So I just, did the more high-end version of a casual glasses look, I guess.
It was giving everything. They were absolutely stunning. And when it comes down to personal style, I think a lot of people can misinterpret the importance of style, right? And I think that there are some people who may think that style is vain, that thinking about it's not as important to authenticity. And so I wanted to dive right into the deep end with you.
Let's do it.
I want to know what you would say to somebody, who thinking too much or focusing in on your personal style is vain or unnecessary. What would you say to them?
You know what? I always reference style, fashion, what you're wearing, what you look like as your first hello. So why not present your best self? For me, when I am thinking about fashion, approaching personal style, I'm building a narrative always. There's a story, right? And so the reason taking time to figure that out for yourself is because it's adding to your narrative. Your narrative as a person, as an individual, as an artist, as however you show up in the world, Fashion is a medium for storytelling. That's the reality of it. So pay attention to it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a cheat code. It's like if you're going into corporate, let's say you're going on a job interview, right? And you are not qualified for the part, but you have the gift of gab and you're dressed really well, you might just get a little further than if you were not dressed the part. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Use it to your advantage. That's how I feel about fashion,
Yes.
And when I say the term your first hello, I also mean like in a literal sense too. Like for me, I used to be very shy when it came to network spaces and all that kind of thing, right? But I always knew that, oh, somebody's going to say something about my outfit.
Yes.
Somebody's going to approach me in some kind of way and say something about my outfit, and that will help me to engage or start a conversation.
Beautiful.
So it was kind of like a cheat code for me too. So that's why I take it seriously, and you should too.
Yes. And you're absolutely right. It is about narrative. Even what you shared in terms of like Spike Lee and Tiana Taylor, there's a story there. And people who are interested in understanding more will ask.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be people who make assumptions. And I think that for some people, getting comfortable with style and expressing themselves, there's a little bit of a fear of being different, you know, because it is actually telling your story. So what would you say to support or help the person who's a little bit afraid of standing out in terms of their personal style?
Here's the thing. Your personal style doesn't always mean loud. Doesn't always mean that you need to or you're going to stand out. You know what I mean? You could be the clean aesthetic girly that just loves, you know, a great trouser, a fresh white tee, and some loafers, right? But that's fire. That's bomb.
Yes.
You know, that looks beautiful for you, on you. And that's okay. So I think I would more so approach it by encouraging people to get really real with what their narrative is or what they want it to be. You know what I mean?
Powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be loud, right? So, and again, fashion as a cheat code, it's like, I might have a day job in this unrelated industry. But when I go into that environment, the environment that I really want to be in, you know, I want to be seen as the actress, the director, the producer, whatever. Fashion can assist you in achieving that goal in terms of being perceived. So that's what I mean about narrative.
Yes.
You know, it's not about like what you're actually wearing, right? It could be the most calm outfit. It's like, what is my story today? And that changes daily, weekly, and that's okay.
I love what you said. Fashion as a cheat code.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that can be its own, like, you know what I mean?
All the
Capital
time.
F.
Yeah.
Capital cheat code,
Yeah,
CC. You know?
FCC, yes.
FCC, yeah. To really unlock the story that you're bringing into the world,
Absolutely.
that you're envisioning, that you're, dare I say, manifesting.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, it's about being forward thinking and really stepping into that. And that can be scary sometimes, kind of stepping into what our big dreams are and what our big goals are.
The core thing with personal style, really, because there's so many do's and do not, but just have fun.
Yes.
That's like the most simplest thing that I could say is have fun.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like just experiment, just have fun. There's no wrong way to do you.
That's another audible right there. Okay.
I'm on a roll.
No, it
Look
is.
at me.
It's good. Yeah, there's no wrong way to do.
No, but
and
that's
you know what?
for real. That's how I feel.
No, it's absolutely true. Because, you know, this season of this show is all about unlocking our potential through tapping into and locking into our authentic selves, our authentic expression of our soul, right? And what I'm getting from you is that when we are truly tapped into who we are, really, it'll come through in the way that we express our style. What would you say?
It's easier than you think. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I love that. It's easy. It's easier than you think.
Yeah, because once you're tapped into you, it's just you. You know, fashion. All this stuff is just an extension of you, versus what the world, social media, the influence of the world tends to do is they tend to create the narrative for you. Because it's like, if I'm like a girly girl at heart, but like, like mob wife aesthetic is in. Oh my God, now I need like leopard print and burgundy lipstick and all the things. But if that's not really you, you don't need to do that. You know what I mean? Or if it's not you, but you want to try that, then make that you.
Love it.
You know what I mean?
Yes, but it comes into knowing what your own desires
It always starts with you at the end of the day.
Yes,
You know, no matter how we spin it, it's always going to start with us.
Yep. It gets down to the heart that it's really about connecting with ourselves.
Absolutely. It has nothing to do with the outside world, because people are going to think whatever they want to about you at any point, right? But even in a time in the world where everything is, we're on social media, we're constantly looking at ourselves, judging ourselves based on other people, all of these things. It's like when you can hold on to something for yourself, like, I'm the girl that will always have a brooch on. It's like that's a part of who you are. And that gives you your own confidence and your own identity, right? So
Absolutely. And I love what you had just shared, even just about like, I'm the girl who. Can we go a little bit further into that? Because I love what you shared. It's not just about clothes.
No.
It's about the narrative. It's about the story that you're sharing.
Yeah.
Where do you suggest that someone starts in terms of defining that narrative and defining how that narrative is expressed through their style?
Because fashion is a storytelling medium, I think that a person should first decide what story they want to tell. And what I mean by that is you can wear a plain white tee and a pair of jeans, right? And that could be your story. And then it's like you add, a brooch or an accessory to it, and it becomes a whole different story. So I think when I approach fashion or I express or try to explain fashion to somebody, we could go into like what are your core values and how do you see the world? Sure. Yeah. But also just on a less serious level, have fun.
Love it.
And decide what is my story today. You know what I mean? And it's like, that is how we can continuously experiment, right? And try different things through fashion without having to be married to it. Like, if I dress like this one day, everyone's going to think I'm a goth or I'm a tomboy or I'm, a valley girl, whatever it is. Like, no, I'm just that for today.
Yes.
Just based on how I'm dressed today. So yeah, when you're kind of building your own personal style or trying to figure out what that is, I would say start at the point of how you're feeling. Even if I am feeling this way, how do I want to present? Because those don't have to be the same thing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I absolutely do know what you mean. And I think there's so many times where we may look at how we style ourselves through the lens of how we're going to be perceived. But what you're tapping into is more so who we actually are and what we want to express, regardless of how it's perceived.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And then I wonder, for you in your own journey of developing your personal style, were you always like that? Was that something that you always did? Or, take me to early stage Sheronna.
Yes. Okay. Well, for me, yes. I definitely was. I'm an only child. So already it's like, imagination on 100. You know what I mean? But fashion was a thing that I used to express myself very early on. I always admired how my mom dressed. I was definitely the kid that was, trying to take her heels and her blazers. And I would see her, we'd be at the beach and she'd be in earrings and jewelry. And I'm like, girl, we're at the beach. But as I got older, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, you know what I mean?
Mommy knew.
Yeah. And I kind of became that person. So yeah, early stages. And you want to know what's interesting though? As bold as I was younger, with fashion, with all the things, I was definitely the girl that was wearing, 2 different color shoes and experimenting with hairstyles and hair colors. I've done it all, right? There were a few years in my adult life, not too long ago, where I felt like I lost that. I felt like I was being consumed by everybody else's narrative, right? And I stopped writing my own story through fashion, so to speak. And I can't really tell you how that happened or what changed. It was just kind of like, I felt like I lost that for a bit, you know? And I think what happened was the constant comparison, right? Through social media and all these things. And then one day I just said, no, let me tap back into the girl who wouldn't think twice about what anybody else would think or feel. You mentioned like smalling up yourself, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it was like, oh no, the girl who would wear anything and who was bold and courageous, she was never getting dressed for the approval of anybody else or feeling like, is this too much in this environment? And so luckily I got back to that. It took some time, and then I realized that, oh, this is actually a part of who I am for real.
Yes.
You know, and a part of my life mantra as far as, you know, character development. It's that.
In this segment of the show, what I want to do is talk about a few of your different looks on the red carpet and at socials.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about your Legacy Awards fit. From head to toe, it was the layers of the hats for me. It was the pink with the white and black shoes, is the contrast of color. Walk me through that moment, because that was not only a moment in real life, that was also a moment on socials that also made it into a newspaper, all mediums. Tell me about that fit. Tell me about what you were thinking, and tell me about how that was an expression of your narrative and how we can tap into that for ourselves.
Okay. Legacy Awards. So Legacy Awards, since it started, I would say year to year, I've gone and I've always decided that it was going to matter. It was going to matter to me as it relates to how I show up. It matters in terms of being the Legacy Awards, period, right? Yeah. But I always approach what I'm wearing from year to year with this thought and feeling of, this is going to matter to me. It doesn't matter if I'm being honored or not. If I'm, you know, in the back row, the front row, it doesn't matter. It's going to matter to me, right? So with that being said, when I thought about my look for the last Legacy Awards, I definitely wanted to start a conversation, as I mentioned before, because cheat code, right? But I wanted to represent all the layers of who I am, right? So yes, I had this 3-tier hat. It was a custom design by a wonderful, talented artist. I look at her as like a niece to me. Her name is Jade, JKB Studios, and she's a visual artist. And I said to her, Jade, I want to make 3 hats. I want them all to be attached, and I want them, you know, to kind of be different and have like little things on them. And she was like, all right, cool, I got it. You know what I mean? And we just kind of collaborated on it. But the purpose of the 3 tiers was to represent, in the literal sense, the many hats that I wear. You know what I mean? As a director, as an actress, as a producer, as a costume person as well, as a Black woman, as, you know, as a Canadian Black woman, so many layers, right? So that was one thing. The pink dress was from an African designer, I believe from South Africa, Khadiju was the name of the company. And again, just kind of representing, you know, this night was all about the legacy of Black creators in Canada. I wanted to give my version of that, my version of elegance, representation, but also like my vibe. You know what I mean? Like we love a long flowy gown. We love all of that beautiful stuff, but that wasn't my approach. For that, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, what can I do that still kind of fits, but is like me, you know, going back to my narrative, right? And then my shoes were from a good friend of mine, very amazing designer, Canadian designer as well, Jennifer Lee. And, you know, I was
love Jennifer Lee.
Yeah, right? I know Jen's going to have something for me that would fit this aesthetic. And of course she did, right? So yeah, I just I wanted to have fun. And going back to our conversation about fashion as a narrative builder or an assistant to your narrative that you're building, that was my goal for that look. I wanted people to ask, what's this hat about? Explain this hat to me. Oh, sure, no problem.
It was giving multi-hyphenate creative.
Period.
I love that.
Right? So that's what I love about fashion. It's a way to further extend.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And that did that for sure. And then, so what about, how would you contrast that to when you're on set? So there are a number of different shots of you during the filming of Remote Paradise. You know, you've got your hat backwards sometimes. Tell me about that, Sheronna. How do you translate in those moments?
Great question. Director Sheronna on set for 12 plus hours is locked in.
Got it. Hat backwards. You were actually
backwards. I need to see these sides. I need to make sure my actors can see my eyes when I'm telling them this. I need to look at the playback. I need to focus. You know what I mean? However, you know, the way that I am, I always know there's a BTS camera somewhere.
Yep.
Okay. So we're always going to, you know, give a little something, but not too much. You know what I mean? But yeah, on-set fashion for me is practical. Give me cargo pants with a bunch of pockets because I got pens, I got walkies, I got all types of things. A loose-fitting shirt, like, you know.
Yeah, it was still very cute. I'm still very much giving cute. So,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I want to tap into another segment of the show, which we call Purpose Unlocked. I want to get to know a little bit more about Sheronna, the woman that is here today, able to impact us all through not just her style, but the stories that you share on camera. And it's very clear the relationships that you build on set and the type of teams that you lead and the energy that you create on set. And that comes from somewhere. You know, as you share a little bit about clothing, I think of character. And character really is about, in a scenario, who do you choose to show up as? And what role do you decide to play, you know? And a lot of that comes down to some pivotal moments where we decide what type of role we want to play in the world. What would you say is your purpose? What is Sheronna Osbourne's purpose in this world at this moment?
That's always one of the questions that are like harder to answer, you know? But I love that question. What is my purpose? Right. I love that you said right now. Because, again, it could evolve, it could change. But I think my purpose is to keep my promises to myself, firstly. And through that, I'm able to provide opportunities for other people on their journey as I am also on my journey. I feel like I am that person. And that doesn't come from a long background or history of anything that I'm aspiring to do right now. Acting, directing, producing. I'm learning as I go. But I think that is tied to my purpose. You know what I mean? Let me be the one of the many faces of that style of journey so that other people can see and know it's possible.
Absolutely. You know what I love about that? You're on the journey and you're navigating how you can bring other people along and see where their journey aligns, and you're supporting them on the way. That's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. That's really important to me because I didn't have, you know, a big community of people to turn to or people to ask. I didn't even know what the questions were to ask to say like, hey, I want to be a filmmaker. You know what I mean? I want to act. And so I felt alone. Even now, you know, there are times where it's like, it's such an individual experience. You know what I mean? And so I always say when I am creating or when I'm in the position to give somebody an opportunity, whether it be acting, costume design, producing, assisting on set, it's like a no-brainer for me, you know, because I know how hard it is to just get like a yes from somebody. So I feel like that is also attached to my purpose.
That's absolutely beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Your purpose sounds like it's twofold in that it's a commitment that you're making to yourself, but it's also a commitment you're making to community and how you show up within the community and the support that you provide in the community. Where did that come from in terms of, you know, when was that moment when you were like, this is my purpose? Was there a specific moment or was it something that happened over time?
I think where it became apparent to me more was probably during the filming of, you know, one of my first short films, right? So here I am. Okay, I'm the director. You know what I mean? Oh, wait, now everybody's coming to me for instruction, direction, and organization and all the things. Okay, I'm a decision maker. Okay, let me put other people in position to thrive in their desired space, right? As an actor, oh, okay, I have to decide who's going to be acting in these projects. Ooh, I'm looking at audition tapes, you know, and I know what it feels like to want to do a good audition and for casting to just choose you. And when I got the opportunity to choose people, to give them yeses, girl, that blessed me so much. And I think that's the feeling that I became so intrigued by. You know what I mean? It's the feeling that I wanted more and more.
Yes,
it's like, okay, being the person that is hired, great. We love that. But being the person who can do the hiring, it's not about ego. It's not about power. It's about giving somebody the opportunity.
I love it.
You know?
Service.
So I would say during, those first early days of short film world where it's all indie, you're doing everything by yourself, we don't have the funds to like get somebody else to do any of the big pieces. You're very hands-on. It's about getting other people and saying like, well, what do you want to do? Oh, you're interested in doing costume, but you've never done it before. But you're smart. You have a sense of style. You're organized. You're professional. Come.
Love it. I think of, when I look at the different photos of you and when I hear from your cast members, it's a very gracious style of leadership. And I know that there's often a stigma that can come with directors, that there is, it's a very masculine role.
Yeah.
It can be very ego driven, or it could be understood that way. So how do you approach that? How do you approach leadership in terms of understanding that those fears exist?
My goal is to bring exactly who I am to the environment that I'm in. Of course, we refine that based on whatever the circumstance is, but at the core, I don't care if it's male dominated, if there's a masculine energy that's expected in order to get respect. I don't subscribe to that. You know what I mean? It's just like, you're going to get me if I'm focused, if I'm bubbly, if I'm chatty, if I'm quiet, if I'm sensitive, if I'm straightforward, whatever that is, those are all the elements of who I am. At this stage, of my career, I've never really had that thought or fear of, are they going to respect me because I'm a woman, because I'm a Black woman? That is who I am every single day. That's never going to change. It's not something I have to put on. It just is. That is how I walk into any space of leadership. And because I don't have to put it on, I don't have to do anything extra to enforce it. I receive respect because I give respect. It's as simple as that. Of course, you're going to get into those positions where it's not always reciprocated that way, but then it's like, even if you don't respect me, I respect myself enough to continue with this or take myself out of this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that translates to so many different areas of life. It's such an important thing. I love what you shared there. Even if you don't respect me, I'm going to respect myself.
Yeah.
And that comes with knowing yourself, right? Can we tap into that a little bit? What was your journey of getting to know yourself, the Sheronna inside?
That is an ever evolving journey for sure, because who I was a year ago, 6 months ago, is a different version of who I am today in a good way, I think something that has never left me though is my sense of curiosity and my sense of narrative building, not in a weird way, but in a way of like, one of my personal mantras is like, character development, right? And organically that is, for in front of the camera, but also behind the camera, but also in my real life, right? So as I evolve and I have different experiences and I become more of who I am and who I'm becoming, there are core things that have kept me on this journey, which is my curiosity about life, curiosity about who I am, and the desire to build the best narratives for my life,
Love it.
and that comes in different ways. That comes through what I do, through directing, through expressing myself as an actress, through expressing myself, through fashion. All of it encompasses that same thing. And that's kind of how I have gotten, and I'm continuing to refine the woman that I am today.
I love it because it's unapologetic.
Yeah.
And we need more of that. It's gracious. It's a balance. It's gracious in its delivery, but it's also unapologetic in its expression.
Thank you.
For all of the people out there who want to become directors one day, who have this vision, how do we tap into that level of gracious, unapologetic expression?
I love that. As it relates to directing or pursuing directing or in general,
And in
really.
general.
But yeah. Honestly, I always say, nobody can do you better than you can do you. You know what I mean? And I feel like if we really tap into that in every area of life, that helps, So whether you have been directing for 20 years or whether this is your first day picking up a camera, it's like you are that because you believe that you are that, and just go with it. And one thing that I'm really learning for myself as well is don't be tied to perfection, but really embrace the bumps of the journey. You know what I mean? Your first thing that you direct is not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And that is something that I continuously remind myself of because I have been that artist that gets stuck in that, analysis paralysis. Is this good enough? Is this story good enough? Did I make the right choice with this shot? Do I know enough? I'm working with DPs. Oh, I don't know all the terminology. How do I express what I want to see? Whatever that is, And you get intimidated very quickly, especially with a title as director. You are the leader in this environment. People are coming to you for all the cues, right? So it's important to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And be okay with exploring. That going back to that thing within me that is like an explorer, curiosity. Let me try this shot like that. Let me hold, the camera upside down and let's just see what happens. Because why not?
And that comes with a lot of trusting yourself because at the end of the day, in directing, you're taking a lot of risks because there's some things that you just, like you said, you just can't plan for. Yeah. Right? How does someone approach trusting themselves and getting closer to that knowing?
Ooh, similar to this field or just being an artist in general, it's less about theory and more about like practicality. You just have to try. You just have to do it. You just have to. And here's what I'll say. Let's say you're a new director, right? And you have mentors or people that you're gleaning information from, or you have, an assistant director who might have more experience than you, a DP who has more experience than you. That's great. Learn from the people that are around you. You know what I mean? Put people in position who can help you. But maybe there's like one scene that's just all you, all your creativity with no outside voice. That's what I mean. Like start small with trusting yourself, with getting into the habit and the practice, but you have to do it. That's just the reality. So maybe it's like, you know what? I'm going to listen to, everything that everyone else has to say or the writer or everyone's opinion on this, that, and that. But on this particular, moment here in this movie, this is my moment. I've spoken to some of my mentors in the industry who are directors, female directors. And I would ask them, when you are getting hired to shoot episodic, right? So like a TV show that's already established, but you are coming on as a director. How do you make an episode of, Law and Order your own when we are already used to the formula of Law and Order? You know what I mean? How do you make it your own? And I ask these questions as a newer director as well. And what they would say to me is exactly what I'm expressing. Find the opportunities to make something your own and to take the risk. Yes. And the more you do that is the more you learn, I can trust myself because I show up for myself. That's
big. That's absolutely big. And in that, you get to see how you maneuver in that space. You won't know unless you give it that try. Yeah. Unless you give it that try.
For sure.
And so what's next for you? What's next? I know Remote Paradise, you were in LA, taking it international. And as a Canadian director, that is definitely a huge success to be able to take some of our Canadian talent and our stories and bring them, around the world. What are some of the things that you're envisioning for the next steps in your journey?
Well, I am in the process of writing my first feature film.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's big. Congratulations.
Thank you. And though I've, been in the short film world for some time, this feels just like biting a huge chunk of a burger. You know what I mean? It's a bigger deal. And it's intimidating. It's scary. It's all the things because I don't have all the answers just yet. I don't know everything yet. But I'm excited about it because I'm learning as I go. And I'm taking my time and I'm figuring it out. Not just from, we can fast forward, to the director part of it, but I'm in the writing stage right now, So it's like, okay, how do I best express this story? So that's where I'm at as a creator right now, aside from, other projects with my company, So What Now Media, which will also have an extension for personal style consulting and events and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to really launching those elements of my business, which are really just extensions of who I am.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that look that you had on the black carpet for Legacy Awards, having multiple hats on at the same time, but we'll get to that later on in this episode. I want to talk more about So What. What's the vision behind So What Media and So What Now Media? And where did the name come from? What is the vision for it? What's the larger vision? Tell me a little bit about that.
I do have a production company called So What Now Media. And it's not officially launched yet, so exclusive. Hey. But I will be producing my first feature film through that company. And alongside, film stuff, I have an ambition and a desire to produce events that are kind of like film events. More on that later.
Okay.
But just think of experiences, more sort of interactive experiences that encompass film, fashion, world building. That is on my heart to do. So when I started or when I came up with the concept of So What Now Media, I knew that it would be more than film.
Beautiful.
So very early stages right now, but definitely working on some things. And yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful, and yeah, I love what you shared about being on screen to then creating off-screen opportunities as a director, and now launching a production company and a media company is such an amazing opportunity to continue to extend that purpose.
Oh, for sure.
In so many ways.
For sure. I'm already thinking like, oh, I can hire actors for this event and that event and the whole thing. So I'm excited about it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then alongside that this year, we had some conversations about tapping into your stylist bag. Tell me a little bit about that. Share a little bit about that with us.
So it's interesting because when I first started in this industry, I was a stylist. So in college, I had a company called It's Been Done Stylist with my girl, Janelle McCoy. And, we were just roughing it. We were, pulling items, buying clothes, using our own stuff, low budgets, no budgets, whatever it was. And we're just like, we're going to be stylists, right? And then once I got into film and television as a costume buyer, I started to almost despise the term stylist. It's really interesting. Like the transition that I went through, I was like, I'm not a stylist. I do this for film. You know what I mean? There is a difference, right? But it's like I had forgotten all the things that I learned that brought me to this point of being able to do this for film, right? It's funny because all these years later, you know, my sort of fashion stylist bug started to kind of reignite, you know, and I was like, but how do I mold this into something that is more aligned with who I am today, and what I want to do more of, but still kind of tapping into that stylist bag, but I don't necessarily have the same capacity I did when I was, you know, in college doing it, right? In terms of time and all the things. So I've decided that I will be launching a style consultant service, which I'm very excited about.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And really just helping women, men, young, old, professionals, artists, whoever, tap into their personal style, revamp their existing closets, finding ways to enhance and build the narrative that they've always wanted. So I think about that and I'm like, man, like God is so good, because all the years where I was like ignoring the fact that I had been a stylist, you know, and now it's serving me in a new way. You know what I mean? And I love that. And I'm excited to get started with that. So it's very much in the conceptual stages at this time. But the launch is definitely going to happen spring 2025, I'd say.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that for you, and I love that for us.
Absolutely.
Because we're going to be tapping into those services.
Yes,
100%.
listen, I got you.
Yes. And you know what it makes me think of? You're sharing these beautiful stories on the screen, and we're able to connect with these characters on the screen through the different films that you're directing, as well as the different characters you play on screen. But you're also allowing us to figure out how we can tap into our own kind of role and who we want to show up as in real life through these services. And what I've heard from you throughout this entire show, this entire episode, has been about the importance of kind of understanding our own narrative and what we want to bring to the world, and being comfortable in sharing that and expressing that through our style and the way that we choose what we wear every single day. Beautiful, beautiful. Is there anything else that you would want the audience to know, to tap into, to understand today?
You know, something that you and I spoke about before, as we started to get to know each other and, you know, leading up to this conversation and all of that. And something that I've really been thinking about lately has been the concept of nurturing the seeds that you have. You know what I mean? As an artist, and I'm speaking to anyone, but particularly the artists, whatever medium your art is in, because I know firsthand what it feels like to have a million ideas, to be afraid to execute your ideas, to strive for perfection out of the gate, to be paralyzed by analysis, you know, thinking, overthinking, all the things. I get that. That has been me, you know. But something dawned on me over the past, you know, few months, I would say. And it was, we're all working towards like whatever the harvest is, whether that's money, whether that's acceptance from your industry, acknowledgement, popularity, whatever that harvest is for you, right? But what I really want people to understand is that your harvest is in the seeds, and we possess the seed already. You know what I mean? And so take care of the seed. And when I say seed, it's the ideas. It's the beginning stages of whatever it is you have going on. If so many times I talk to actors, I talk to writers, and I say, what do you do? Oh, I'm an aspiring actor, or I kind of want to write, kind of want to produce. Oh, no, you do that. That is who you are already. It doesn't matter if no one knows or you haven't actually produced a physical product that people can see. You have the seed already, and I really had to remind myself of that because I was also falling victim to that analysis paralysis. Like, is this good enough? I don't know many people who can help me with this. I don't have all the resources. Is this idea gonna get into film festivals? Am I, whatever it is, all those thoughts. And I was just like, even with the consulting business, I was like, is it oversaturated? All the thoughts. And I'm just like, yo, calm down.
Yeah.
Like, just relax because your ideas are your ideas and they're great because they've come from you, And so really taking care of your things in seed form, I think that is something so important.
Sheronna, that is, like, I literally feel the resonance of what you're saying.
It's
and
real.
It is. It's making me think I feel like I need to go home and assess so many different things at this point. Because you're absolutely right. The fact that we have a desire for something, the fact that we want something is proof enough of it being aligned in terms of our purpose. So there's been just so much wisdom, so many amazing keys that have been given today.
This was fun,
Yeah, I really enjoyed. And I know the audience will too. What I'm thinking of is along the way, there were probably so many questions that you had in your mind, that internal chatter where it's like, the anxiety of what do I do next? Is it all going to work out? And I'm sure if younger Sheronna knew that you were going to be the actor, director, producer, leader, that you are, she would move through the world with a lot more clarity. So what would you say to that high school version of yourself, that 15, 16, 17-year-old Sheronna?
Wow. Ooh, okay. Firstly, I would say don't lose the confidence that you have. Just grow on it.
Love it.
Because I feel like one of my most confident times within myself was at that age. And I started to do the comparison stuff as I got older, which was interesting, because usually it's reverse, right? So I would definitely say keep that confidence, keep that spark, grow on it. Ask more questions. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Beautiful.
I would say trust your instincts and trust your ideas because they're valid. I would also say communicate and lead with grace because you could be the leader today and the person you're leading today becomes the person who leads you tomorrow. So have grace. And lastly, I would say continue to show up and show out. Dress your best every time you leave the house.
Yes.
Because the girls are watching.
I'm here for that. That was a whole keychain of keys. That was a whole keychain of keys. That was absolutely beautiful. I received every word, every vibration of that, and just being here with you today. I'm leaving. My cup is full. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much. This even brings me back to what you shared earlier about 1, having fun, and 2, it really being about how do you want to show up
Yeah.
today. And when I'm leaving this conversation, really, one of the main keys, a major key for me, is to not be boxed in when we think about our potential, to allow ourselves to fluctuate, explore, be truly creative, let ourselves wear the many hats, and maybe sometimes at the same time.
That part.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way that you live your life, the way that you express yourself through style, the teams that you lead and build, the films that you're creating, they're absolutely beautiful gifts that you're leaving in the world.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful legacy. It's literally just started. Such an honor to be here. You guys, you need to check out So What Now Media. You need to check out Sheronna's styling consulting services. And if you haven't seen any of her films, those will be in the description below. You definitely want to check out some of her films and her Instagram and her TikTok. Where can they find you on Instagram and TikTok? What's your handle?
At your Sheronna on all platforms.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Not my Sheronna, your Sheronna.
Right.
Beautiful.
The girls that get it.
I'm leaving here just so energized. And I just want to say you truly are, you're absolutely stunning and beautiful on the outside and the inside, but you also are truly a girl's girl. And just appreciate you in so many ways, and so excited to continue to build together.
I'm so excited for that too.
Yes. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're here to help you get the keys. See you next time. You are watching Get the Keys. We're behind the scenes as Sheronna is completing her branding photo shoot. We've got an amazing photographer. His name is Timi, who's creating the entire look and vision for an exciting campaign that's coming out for a styling service that she has that's going to be released. But for now, enjoy these scenes.
Every time I decide to do something creative as it relates to fashion, I think about the narrative first. What story am I telling? When I found this place, I was like, oh, there's so much character here. One of, my personal mantras that I live by is character development. So I just figured, well, let me bring some of my own character as far as fashion, the different styles that I'm into, like this one.
My thought about the show is to bring the client's vision to life.
The vibes of this shoot, if I had to describe it, is definitely like 70s retro, eclectic, with a little modern vibe, That's kind of my vibe too in the essence, and we're just having fun. The first people that comes to mind is definitely my mom. She was the first woman that I saw wear full jewelry and sunglasses at the beach, high heels, blazers, and cigarette skinny jeans, while we were traveling for vacation. So I never saw her not done up, and it was just a natural thing for her. So this is actually her fur. So it's actual vintage. This is kind of my way of paying homage to her in terms of being my very first style icon.